The Christmas tree in Mom's living room was 12 feet tall, decorated with matching gold and silver ornaments that probably cost more than my monthly rent. 18 family members crowded into the space: uncles, cousins, and my brother Trevor with his wife Madison and their 2 kids. Gift opening was the main event. As always, we went around the circle, each person presenting their carefully wrapped offerings while everyone else watched and judged. It was a performance. Really, a chance to show off wealth, taste, and generosity. Trevor went before me. He handed out envelopes to Mom, Dad, and several relatives. "Just a little something," he said with false modesty. Mom opened hers. "Oh, Trevor, a spa weekend package at Canyon Ranch. This must have cost." "Don't worry about the cost," Trevor interrupted smoothly. "Madison and I just want you to relax. You've earned it." Dad got a golf membership at an exclusive country club. Aunt Diane got designer perfume. Uncle Rob got premium whiskey. Each gift was carefully chosen to broadcast success. "Your turn, Ethan," Mom said, looking at me expectantly. I pulled out my gifts. They were wrapped in simple brown paper with twine bows. I'd made the wrapping paper myself from recycled bags, decorated with hand-drawn snowflakes. "How, ... rustic," Madison said, her tones suggesting rustic was not a compliment. I handed Mom her gift. She unwrapped it to find a hand-knitted scarf in her favorite shade of blue. "It's lovely," Mom said, but I could see the disappointment. She'd been expecting something more. Dad got a book of first edition of his favorite novel, found at an estate sale. Cost me $40 and 3 weeks of searching. Trevor got a simple picture frame with a photo inside, the 2 of us as kids, building a snowman. He looked at it for exactly 2 seconds, then set it aside. "Thanks, man. Is that it?" Madison asked. "I mean, 4 gifts." "That's it," I said. Trevor picked up the frame again, examining it. "Must be nice to have so much free time." Making wrapping paper. Knitting scarves. Meanwhile, some of us are working 60-hour weeks and can actually afford to buy proper gifts. "Trevor," Dad said quietly. "What?" "I'm just saying. Madison and I work hard for our money. We give accordingly. Ethan's working at that nonprofit. What do they pay him? $30,000 a year. Can't expect much." "It's $32,000, I said calmly. "Oh, 32? My mistake." Trevor's smile was sharp. "Still, maybe next year skip the handmade crafts and just get people gift cards. Less embarrassing for everyone." Cousin Jessica laughed. "Trevor, that's harsh." "It's honest," Trevor said. "We're all adults here. Ethan couldn't afford better, so he made things. It's sweet, really, like elementary school art projects." Madison nodded in agreement. "It's the thought that counts, right? Even if the thought is, I'm too broke to actually buy presents." Around the room, relatives shifted uncomfortably. Some looked at their phones. Others suddenly found their drinks fascinating. Mom tried to salvage the moment. "Ethan, the scarf is beautiful. Did you really make it yourself?" "I did," I said. "How long did it take?" "About 40 hours. 40 hours. Trevor laughed. "You spent 40 hours knitting a scarf? Dude, that's almost a week of work. You could have worked overtime and actually bought a decent gift." "I don't work hourly," I said. "Right, because nonprofits." "Tell me again what you do." "Something with community outreach? Youth education programs." "Youth education," Trevor repeated to the room, "also known as babysitting." Meanwhile, I'm running a sales division with 15 people under me, pulling 6 figures, and somehow I still found time to buy actual gifts instead of making construction paper ornaments. "The wrapping paper isn't construction paper," I said. "It's recycled shopping bags." "Even worse." Trevor slapped his knee. "Madison, did you hear that? He decorated trash." "It's called being environmentally conscious, Premier Said evenly." "It's called being cheap," Trevor countered. "But hey, we all have different priorities. You prioritize saving the planet one used shopping bag at a time. I prioritize taking care of my family." He gestured to his wife and kids, who sat surrounded by expensive gifts he'd given them earlier. Trevor, that's enough, Aunt Diane said. I'm just being honest. Mom raised us to be honest, right? And honestly, Ethan's gifts are, they're trying. They really are. It's just a different economic bracket showing. I pulled out my phone. Oh, are you going to show us your bank balance? Trevor asked. Prove you're not as broke as your gifts suggest. Something like that, I said, opening my banking app. I navigated to my automatic payments screen. 6 years of carefully maintained recurring payments, all set up quietly. Never mentioned, never discussed. Trevor's car payment, $647 month. Trevor's insurance, $312 month. Trevor's kids' private school tuition, $2,100 month, split between both kids. Madison's car lease, $573 month. Trevor's country club membership, $425 month. Trevor's investment property mortgage, $890 month. Total monthly, $4,947 total, over 6 years, $356,184. I also had a spreadsheet. I always had a spreadsheet. Actually, I said, I was just checking something. Your nonprofit salary? Trevor smirked. My payments. I smiled at him. You know, Trevor, you're absolutely right. I couldn't afford better gifts. Because I've been spending my money elsewhere. On what? Your studio apartment. On your car payment? The room went quiet. What? Trevor said. Your car payment. That Audi Q7 in the driveway? I've been paying for it. For the last 4 years. Trevor's smile faltered. That's not funny. It's not a joke. I pulled up the payment history, showing it to Dad first. See? Every month, $647 to Audi Financial Services. Account number, ending in 3847. That's Trevor's account. Dad looked at the screen, then at Trevor. Is this true? I don't understand, Trevor said. And the insurance, I continued. That's another $312 a month. Also, coming from my account. Plus, Madison's Lexus lease $573 monthly. The kids' private school tuition, $2,100 a month split between 2 tuitions. Your country club membership, $425 monthly. And that investment property in Scottsdale that you rent out, $890 a month on the mortgage. I looked around the room. Everyone was staring. In total, I said, I've been paying $4,947 every single month for 6 years. That's $59,364 per year. Over 6 years, that's $356,184. Aunt Diane dropped her wine glass. It shattered on the hardwood floor, deep red wine spreading like blood. No one moved to clean it up. $356,000. Uncle Rob repeated slowly. Give or take, I said. There were some months with extra fees. Trevor's face had gone pale. Why would you? How could you? Double quotes. How could I afford it? I finished. Well, my nonprofit salary is $32,000. That's true. But I also have a trust fund from Grandpa. You remember Grandpa? Grandpa died when we were kids, Trevor said. He did. Left money in trust for both of us. Yours paid out when you turned 25. Remember? You used it as a down payment on your first house. Yet, mine paid out at 25 too, but I invested it instead of spending it. 16 years of compound growth. It's worth about $940,000 now. Generates roughly $47,000 a year in dividends. Combined with my salary, I make about $79,000 annually. Mom's hand went to her mouth. But I live in a studio apartment, I continued. I drive a 10-year-old Honda. I shop at thrift stores. Why? Madison asked, her voice shaking. Because 6 years ago, Trevor called me. He was panicking, said he'd overextended on the Audi lease, couldn't make payments, was about to get repossessed. Asked if I could help, just for a few months, until his commission check came through. I looked at Trevor. His face was red now. I said yes. Family helps family, right? Paid the first month. Then, the second. Trevor never mentioned it again, so I kept paying. Then he called about insurance. Then Madison called about her lease. Then you both called about private school tuition. Each time, it was just temporary. Each time, I said yes. We didn't know you were paying for everything, Madison said. You didn't ask, I said. The money showed up. The bills got paid. You assumed Trevor's sales job covered it all. It does cover it, Trevor said defensively. I make good money. You make $87,000 a year, I said. I know because you told me. Last year, when you were bragging about your raise, Uncle Rob whistled low. That's not sustainable. It wasn't, I agreed. That's why I was sustaining it. Trevor stood up. I would have figured it out. How? I asked. By borrowing from mom and dad? By taking on more debts? You're already maxed out on credit cards. I've seen the statements. You forward them to my email asking me to pay them off. That's private. Treyboy. You're right. I apologize. I turned to the room. I shouldn't share private financial details. Let me just share the totals. Credit cards I've paid off for Trevor over 6 years. $44,044. That's separate from the monthly expenses. Jesus Christ, Cousin Mark muttered. So, I said, looking at Trevor. When you say I couldn't afford better Christmas gifts because I'm working at a nonprofit making $32,000 a year, you're technically correct. I couldn't afford better gifts because I've been spending $400,000 of my money keeping you afloat. Trevor's phone buzzed. Then again. Then a third time. He looked at it. His face went from red to white. What? Madison asked. It's the insurance company. His voice was barely a whisper. They're saying the payment didn't process. Policy is suspended. That's because I canceled the automatic payment, I said. About 10 minutes ago, right after you called my gifts construction paper, ornaments. Trevor's phone buzzed again. The Audi dealership. They're saying the payment bounced. Also canceled, I said. Ethan, you can't do this, Trevor said, his voice rising. I can. Actually, they're automatic payments from my account. I can cancel them anytime. But the car will get repossessed if you don't make the payment yourself. You have about 14 days before they send a tow truck. Madison's phone buzzed now. She looked at it and gasped. The school. They're saying tuition wasn't received. The kids will be withdrawn if we don't pay by January 2nd. That gives you 9 days, I said helpfully. This is insane, Trevor said. You can't just cancel everything. Watch me. I pulled up my banking app and showed him the screen. See, car payment canceled, insurance canceled, Madison's lease canceled. School tuition canceled, country club canceled, investment property, mortgage canceled, credit card auto pay, all done in the last 15 minutes while you were explaining to everyone how cheap I am. Trevor lunged for me. Dad stepped between us. Sit down, Trevor, Dad said firmly. He's ruining my life. He's been funding your life, Dad corrected. Apparently for 6 years. Sit down. Trevor sat, but his hands were shaking. Madison was crying quietly. Ethan, Mom said carefully, this seems extreme. Does it? I asked. I've been paying Trevor's bills for 6 years. Quietly. Never mentioned it. Never asked for recognition or thanks. And tonight, in front of the entire family, he mocked my gifts, called them cheap, called them embarrassing, suggested I was too poor to buy proper presents, all while wearing clothes I paid for, driving a car I paid for, sending his kids to schools I paid for. We didn't know, Madison repeated. You did know, I said. Maybe not the extent, but you knew. Trevor, how many times have I paid your credit card bill after you forwarded me the statement? 20, 30. I thought you were lending me money, Trevor said weakly. Did you? Because you never paid any of it back. Not once. A loan gets repaid. Trevor, what I was doing was giving you money. Free money. while living in a studio apartment and driving a decade-old car and making my Christmas gifts by hand because I'd spent all my disposable income keeping you in luxury. Aunt Diane found her voice. Trevor, is this true? All of it? Trevor wouldn't look at her. Answer your aunt, Dad said. I didn't know it was that much, Trevor said finally. Ethan would just lay things. When we had problems, he'd fix them. I thought he wanted to help. I did want to help, I said. Past tense. Then you spent Christmas dinner humiliating me for being poor while literally wearing a watch I bought you for your birthday. Trevor looked down at his wrist. The Tag Heuer, $4,200. I'd paid for it because Trevor said Madison wanted him to look successful for client meetings. The watch, too? Uncle Rob asked. The watch, too, I confirmed. Trevor's phone buzzed again. The investment property. The mortgage company is asking about January's payment. Better figure that out, I said. You've got a renter in there, right? Maybe use that rent money to actually pay the mortgage instead of pocketing it for spending money. The rent barely covers half the mortgage, Trebor sighed. Then you made a bad investment, I said. Not my problem anymore. Ethan, please, Madison said. The kids' school. Public school is free, I said. My kids at the nonprofit go to public school. They're learning just fine. But their friends will make new friends, I said. Or you'll figure out how to pay the tuition yourselves. Either way, I'm done. Mom stood up. Ethan, you're being cruel. I'm being honest, I said, echoing Trevor's earlier words. Trevor was honest about my gifts being cheap. I'm being honest about why they were cheap. Seems fair. But to cancel everything all at once, would you prefer I'd done it gradually? I asked. Dragged it out over months. Made them wonder which bill would bounce next. I'd prefer you'd talk to us first, Mom said. I tried, I said. 3 years ago, I sat Trevor down and said I couldn't keep paying for everything. He promised he'd take over the bills soon. 2 years ago, I mentioned again that this was unsustainable. A-Side A was working on it. Last year at Thanksgiving, I told him explicitly that I needed to stop the payments. He asked for just a few more months. It's been 18 months. Dad looked at Trevor. Is this true? Trevor nodded miserably. Then you did this to yourself, Dad said. But, Dad, no, Dad said firmly. Your brother has been supporting you for 6 years. You've been living beyond your means, assuming the money would keep flowing. And instead of being grateful, you mocked him. You called his gifts cheap and embarrassing. You humiliated him in front of the family. I didn't know you should have known, Dad interrupted. You're 40 years old, Trevor. You should know how much your life costs. You should know whether your salary covers it. You should have been tracking where the extra money was coming from. I thought I was doing well, Trevor said quietly. You were doing well, I said, on my dime. Madison's phone buzzed again. She looked at it and burst into tears. The Lexus dealership. They want immediate payment or they're sending a tow truck tomorrow. Christmas is in 2 days, I said. They probably won't send anyone until after the holiday. You've got time to figure it out. How? Madison asked. How do we figure out $5,000 a month in bills? The same way everyone else does, I said. You cut expenses. You downsize. You trade the Lexus for a Honda. You pull the kids out of private school. You cancel the country club membership. You sell the investment property or find a renter who pays enough to cover the mortgage. But our lifestyle, Trevor started, was never real, I finished. It was subsidized by me. And now the subsidy is over. Cousin Jessica spoke up. For what it's worth, Ethan, I think the scarf is beautiful. Must have taken real skill to make. Thank you, I said. And that first edition book for your dad, Uncle Rob added. That's a real find. Takes time and effort to hunt those down. It does, I agreed. We've been looking at this all wrong, Aunt Diane said. She picked up the picture frame Trevor had discarded, the one with our childhood photo. This is actually a lovely gift. Personal, thoughtful, meaningful. It's a cheap frame from Target, Trevor muttered. The frame is cheap, Aunt Diane said. The gesture isn't. Ethan chose a photo from when you two were close, when you actually cared about each other. Before money and status got in the way, that's worth more than a spa weekend. Mom picked up her scarf. This is really beautiful, Ethan. How did you learn to knit? YouTube, I said. Took me 3 months to get decent at it. The scarf itself took about 40 hours. 40 hours, Mom repeated. That's a week of full-time work. Evenings and weekends, I said. I started in September, wanted to finish by Christmas. That's dedication, Dad said, turning the first edition book over in his hands. This must have been hard to find. 3 weeks of estate sales and used bookstores, I said. Found it in a store in Prescott. Drove 2 hours each way to get it. So you put in, Dad calculated, roughly 60 hours total on gifts that cost maybe $100 combined. Meanwhile, Trevor spent thousands on gifts he bought in 30 minutes online. That's not the point, Trevor said. That's exactly the point, Dad said. Ethan put time and thought into personal, meaningful gifts. You threw money at impersonal, status symbol gifts, and then you mocked him for not doing what you did. Trevor's phone buzzed again. He looked at it and closed his eyes. Credit card company. Payment denied. They're suspending the card. You've got other cards, I said. They're maxed out. Then I guess you're using cash until you pay them down. I don't have cash. Then you have a problem, I said. That you'll need to solve yourself. Madison was sobbing now. What are we going to do? I don't know, Trevor said. His confident, successful demeanor had completely crumbled. He looked smaller somehow. Defeated. You'll figure it out, I said, standing up. You're smart. You're resourceful. You managed to convince me to pay your bills for 6 years without ever explicitly asking. Channel that energy into actually solving your financial problems. Where are you going? Mom asked. Home, I said. I've got wrapping paper to recycle and leftovers to pack up. Ethan, wait, Dad said. Can we talk about this? We just did, I said. For the last 30 minutes, I think everyone understands the situation now. But surely there's some compromise. Mom started. There isn't, I said. Trevor made his choice when he decided to mock my gifts. I made mine when I canceled the payments. We're both living with the consequences. I gathered my coat and the plastic containers Mom always sent me home with because, even in the middle of family drama, she couldn't let me leave without leftovers. As I reached the door, Trevor called out, Ethan, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Can we talk about this? I turned back. You're not sorry, you mocked me. You're sorry, I canceled the money. There's a difference. That's not fair. You're right, I said. It's not fair. It's not fair that I spent $400,000 keeping you comfortable. It's not fair that you never once said thank you. It's not fair that I made Christmas gifts by hand because I'd spent my disposable income on your disposable lifestyle. None of it's fair, but it's done. I walked out into the cold December night. Behind me, I could hear raised voices. Trevor and Madison arguing. Mom trying to mediate. Dad's deep voice cutting through the chaos. I got in my 10-year-old Hyundai that, when I'd been driving for a decade because I was paying for Trevor's Audi and drove to my studio apartment. The apartment was small but mine. Paid for with my money, furnished with thrift store finds, decorated with photos and art I'd collected over the years. It wasn't impressive, but it was honest. I hung Mom's scarf on the coat rack, placed Dad's book on the shelf, and set the photo frame the one Trevor had discarded on my desk. 2 brothers building a snowman. Smiling. Happy. Before money complicated everything. 3 days later, Trevor showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't let him in. But he looked terrible and shaven, wearing sweatpants, driving what looked like a rental car. Can we talk? He asked. I stepped aside. He came in and looked around, really seeing my studio for the first time. This is where you live? He asked. For 8 years, I said. It's so small. It's adequate. You could afford better. I could. I agreed. But then I'd be living beyond my means, like someone else I know. He flinched. I deserved that. You deserved worse, I said. But I'm trying to be civil. What do you want, Trevor? They repossessed the AOD, he said. Yesterday, towed it right out of the driveway. That was fast. Apparently, when you miss a payment entirely, not just late, but nothing processed at all, they move quickly. Lesson learned, I said. The Lexus too, Madison's car. Gone. That's unfortunate. We had to pull the kids out of school, couldn't make the tuition payment. Public school starts January 7th, I said. They'll be fine. They're devastated. They'll adjust. Trevor sat on my second-hand couch. Madison's parents loaned us money. Enough to cover basics for a month. We're trying to sell the investment property, but the market's slow, and I got fired. That surprised me. Fired? Corporate restructuring. They said my division wasn't meeting targets. I think they were looking for an excuse. Either way, I'm out. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. Are you? Trevor looked at me. Because I wouldn't blame you if you weren't. I'm not happy you got fired. I'm not happy you're struggling. I'm just not willing to fix it anymore. I know, Trevor said. I don't expect you to. I didn't come here to ask for money. Then why did you come? To apologize? Trevor said. Really apologize. Not because you canceled the payments, but because I was cruel to you. Because I mocked your gifts in front of everyone. Because I've been taking advantage of you for 6 years and never once said thank you. I sat in my desk chair. Go on! I don't know when it started, Trevor said. The entitlement. The assumption that money would just appear when I needed it. You made it so easy, Ethan. Too easy. I'd forward you a bill, and it would get paid. I'd mention a problem, and you'd solve it. After a while, I stopped thinking about it, stopped appreciating it, started assuming it was just how things worked. That's honest, I said. Madison and I had a long talk. She pointed out that we've been living like we make $250,000 when we make $87,000. That's not sustainable. It's not real. We've been playing house with someone else's money. My money, I said. Your money, Trevor acknowledged. And I know saying sorry doesn't fix anything, doesn't erase 6 years of taking advantage, doesn't undo Christmas dinner, but I am sorry, genuinely, deeply sorry. I looked at my brother. He'd always been the golden child, the successful one, the impressive one, the one everyone pointed to with pride. Now he sat in my studio apartment in sweatpants, unemployed, with both cars repossessed and his kids pulled from private school, and he looked more real than I'd seen him in years. I accept your apology, I said. Trevor's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? But that doesn't mean I'm resuming payments. I know. I wouldn't ask. We're figuring it out. Madison got a job. First time she's worked in 6 years. And I'm interviewing, taking anything I can get. We'll downsize the house, sell the investment property, consolidate debts, actually live within our means. That's good, I said. It's terrifying, Trevor admitted, but also kind of freeing. Like, we don't have to pretend anymore, don't have to keep up appearances. We can just be normal. Normal is underrated, I said. We sat in silence for a moment. The photo frame, Trevor said. The one with us building the snowman canned Primera bet. You threw it away, Christmas night, I said. I took it home. I know. That's why I'm asking Can Primera. Obey it. I'll buy a nicer frame if you want. But I'd like the photo. As a reminder. Of what? Of when we were brothers before we were competitors. Before money got in the way. Before I let success or the appearance of success make me forget what matters. I stood up and retrieved the frame from my desk. Keep Tease 1, the cheap Target frame. Let it remind you that value isn't about cost. Trevor took it carefully. Thank you. You're welcome, Ethan, Trevor said, as he stood to leave. I know I don't have the right to ask, but can we start over? Not financially. I don't want your money. Just as brothers. I thought about it. About 6 years of payments. About the humiliation at Christmas. About the $400,000 I'd never get back. But I also thought about the photo in the frame. 2 kids building a snowman. Brothers, we can try, I said. That's more than I deserve, Trevor said. Probably, I agreed. But family is complicated. And messy. And sometimes worth the effort anyway. Trevor left. I watched him get into the rental car and drive away. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Trevor told me he came to see you. Thank you for talking to him. I know that wasn't easy. I typed back. It needed to happen. Your mother and I are proud of you, Dad responded. For everything. The way you helped Trevor. The way you set boundaries. The way you handled Christmas. We should have seen what was happening. Should have noticed. I'm sorry we didn't. It's okay, I said. Sometimes people only see what they're looking for. What were we looking for? Dad asked. Success, I typed. Trevor looked successful, so you assumed he was. I looked unsuccessful, so you assumed I wasn't. Turns out we were both performing. Are you? Dad asked. Successful? I looked around my small studio, at the thrift store furniture and the handmade decorations and the life I'd built within my means. Yeah, I typed back. I think I am. 3 months later, I got a package in the mail. Inside was a knitted scarf, lumpy, uneven, clearly a first attempt. To knit side Ethan took me 60 hours and 3 YouTube tutorials. Now I understand why your gifts were so meaningful. Time is the most expensive thing we can give. Thank you for giving me 6 years of yours. I promise I'll spend the rest of mine better. Your brother, Trevor. P.S. The kids love public school. Madison loves working. I got a job paying $63,000. We're renting a smaller house and driving used cars, and we've never been happier. Turns out expensive wasn't the same as good. I hung the scarf next to Mom's on my coat rack. 2 scarves. One expertly made. One terrible. Both priceless. Because that's the thing about gifts, the real ones, the meaningful ones. They're never about the cost. They're about the thought, the time, the love. Things that can't be bought, only given. And sometimes, if you're lucky, eventually received.